The cold December air bit at my cheeks as I pressed my face against the frosted window, my breath creating small circles of fog on the glass. Outside, snowflakes drifted down like tiny white feathers, each one catching the amber glow of the street lamps before disappearing into the growing blanket that covered our neighborhood. The scent of cinnamon and pine filled our living room, mixing with the sweet aroma of sugar cookies baking in the oven. Mom had been in the kitchen all afternoon, and the warmth from the stove made the whole house feel like a cozy embrace against the winter night. I was 7 years old that Christmas Eve, and the excitement bubbling in my chest felt like it might burst right through my ribs. My younger sister Emma sat on the carpet behind me, humming Jingle Bells off-key while she arranged her collection of stuffed animals in a semicircle. She was only 4, still young enough to believe in Santa with the kind of pure, unshakable faith that made everything feel magical. I was older, supposedly wiser, but I still wanted to believe too. Part of me clung to that magic even as doubt crept in around the edges. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 8 times, each deep gong reverberating through the floorboards beneath my feet. Dad looked up from the newspaper he had been pretending to read for the past 20 minutes. I could tell he was distracted because he kept glancing at his watch and then toward the stairs that led to the second floor. His leg bounced nervously, making the ice cubes in his glass of eggnog clink against the sides. Mom emerged from the kitchen, wiping her flour-dusted hands on her red apron. The fabric was decorated with little white snowmen, and she had worn it every Christmas Eve for as long as I could remember. She smiled at Dad, but there was something in her eyes, a kind of knowing look that passed between them like a secret language only they understood. "All right, you two," Mom said, her voice warm and gentle like honey. "Time to put out the cookies and milk for Santa." Emma squealed with delight and scrambled to her feet, her blonde curls bouncing as she ran to the kitchen. I followed more slowly, trying to act casual even though my heart was racing. This was always my favorite part of Christmas Eve, the ritual of preparing for Santa's arrival, the sense that something magical was about to happen. The kitchen was even warmer than the living room, and the heat from the oven made my cheeks flush. Mom had arranged a dozen sugar cookies on a special plate, the one with holly leaves painted around the rim. Each cookie was decorated with colorful icing, some shaped like Christmas trees, others like stars or snowmen. Emma carefully selected the 3 biggest cookies and placed them on the plate with the concentration of a surgeon performing a delicate operation. I poured the milk into a tall glass, watching the white liquid swirl and settle. The glass was cold in my hands, fresh from the refrigerator, and tiny droplets of condensation formed on the outside. We carried our offerings to the living room and set them on the small table next to the Christmas tree. The tree stood in the corner, nearly touching the ceiling, its branches heavy with ornaments collected over years of Christmases past. Colored lights blinked on and off in a slow rhythm, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The star on top seemed to glow with its own inner light, and the whole tree smelled of fresh pine and winter forests. Dad stood up suddenly, stretching his arms above his head. "Well," he said, his voice a little too loud, a little too cheerful, "I think I need to step outside for a bit. Get some fresh air before bed." Mom nodded, that same knowing look crossing her face again. Emma was too busy admiring the cookies to notice, but I watched Dad carefully. Something felt different tonight, though I could not quite put my finger on what it was. He grabbed his heavy winter coat from the rack by the door, the one with the worn elbows and the zipper that always stuck halfway up. As he shrugged it on, I noticed him glance toward the stairs again, just for a moment, before he opened the front door. A gust of cold air rushed in, carrying with it the clean, crisp smell of snow and the distant sound of carolers singing somewhere down the street. Then the door closed, and he was gone. Mom clapped her hands together. "All right, my little elves," she said. "Time to get ready for bed. Santa won't come if you're still awake." Emma protested immediately, her lower lip jetting out in a pout. "But Mom," she whined, "it's too early. We haven't even sung any Christmas songs yet." Mom laughed, a sound like silver bells. Okay. One song, and then it's straight to bed. No arguments." We gathered around the piano, an old upright that had belonged to my grandmother. Mom's fingers found the keys, and soon the familiar melody of Silent Night filled the room. Emma and I sang along, our voices blending with Mom's clear soprano. The music seemed to wrap around us like a warm blanket, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. The tree lights blinked in time with the music, the fire crackled softly in the fireplace, and outside the window, snow continued to fall in thick, lazy flakes. When the song ended, Mom herded us upstairs. The wooden steps creaked under our feet, each one making its own unique sound that I had memorized over the years. The third step from the bottom always groaned the loudest, and the seventh step squeaked like a mouse. Our bedroom was at the end of the hall, a cozy space that Emma and I shared. 2 twin beds sat on opposite walls, each covered with thick quilts that Grandma had made. The room smelled like lavender from the sachets Mom tucked into our drawers, and the radiator hissed and clanked as it pumped heat into the space. Emma climbed into her bed, pulling the covers up to her chin. Her eyes were already heavy with sleep, but she fought to keep them open. "Do you think Santa will bring me the dollhouse?" she asked, her voice small and hopeful. Mom tucked the blanket around her, smoothing her hair back from her forehead. "If you've been good this year, I'm sure Santa knows exactly what you want," she said softly. Emma smiled and closed her eyes, her breathing already beginning to slow and deepen. I got into my own bed, the mattress soft and familiar beneath me. Mom came over and sat on the edge, her weight making the springs creak. She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes searching my face. "You're growing up so fast," she said quietly. "Sometimes I wish I could keep you little forever." I did not know what to say to that, so I just smiled. She leaned down and kissed my forehead, her lips warm and gentle. "Sleep tight, sweetheart. Tomorrow is going to be a very special day." After she left, closing the door behind her with a soft click, I lay in the darkness and listened. The house settled around me with all its familiar nighttime sounds. The furnace hummed in the basement. The wind whistled softly through the eaves. Emma's breathing had become deep and regular, the sound of someone fully asleep. But I could not sleep. My mind raced with thoughts of Christmas morning, of presents under the tree, of the magic that was supposed to happen while we slept. I do not know how long I lay there, staring at the ceiling and watching the shadows shift as car headlights occasionally swept past our window. It might have been 20 minutes or an hour. Time felt strange and elastic, the way it does when you are waiting for something important. Then I heard it. A sound from downstairs. A soft thump, like something heavy being set down carefully. My heart jumped into my throat. Santa. It had to be Santa. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to stay in bed, to follow the rules, to not risk ruining Christmas by catching a glimpse of him. But curiosity was stronger than caution. I had to know. I had to see. Moving as slowly and quietly as I could, I slipped out from under the covers. The floor was cold against my bare feet, and I had to bite my lip to keep from gasping at the shock of it. I tiptoed to the door and eased it open, wincing as the hinges gave a tiny squeak. The hallway was dark except for a faint glow coming from downstairs. I crept toward the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone in the house could hear it. Each step felt like it took forever. I placed my feet carefully on the edges of the steps where they were less likely to creak, a trick I had learned from many nights of sneaking down for midnight snacks. The third step groaned softly despite my caution, and I froze, holding my breath. But no one called out, and after a moment, I continued. At the bottom of the stairs, I pressed myself against the wall and peered around the corner into the living room. What I saw made me forget to breathe. There, standing next to the Christmas tree, was Santa Claus. He was exactly as I had always imagined him. A round belly that shook when he moved. A full white beard that covered most of his face. A red suit with white fur trim that looked soft and plush. Black boots that came up to his knees. He was reaching into a large red sack, pulling out wrapped presents and arranging them carefully under the tree. The colored lights from the tree cast a warm glow over everything, making the scene look like something from a painting. I could hear the rustle of wrapping paper, the soft thud of presents being set down, and something else. Santa was humming. A low, gentle tune that sounded familiar but that I could not quite place. He moved with surprising grace for someone so large, his movements careful and deliberate. I should have been thrilled. I should have been overwhelmed with joy and wonder. But something felt wrong. That humming. I knew that tune. It was the same song Dad always hummed when he was working in the garage, an old jazz melody that he said his father used to play on the saxophone. My stomach twisted into a knot. No. It could not be. I leaned forward, trying to get a better look, and my foot caught on the edge of the rug. I stumbled, catching myself on the doorframe with a sound that seemed as loud as a gunshot in the quiet house. Santa spun around, and for a moment, we stared at each other. His eyes widened behind the wire-rimmed glasses that sat on his nose. Glasses. Santa wore glasses. Just like Dad. The knot in my stomach tightened. Santa took a step toward me, his boots making soft thuds on the hardwood floor. Ho ho ho, he said, but his voice sounded strained, nervous. You should be in bed, young man. Santa only comes when children are sleeping. But I could not move. I could not speak. I just stood there, staring at him, my mind racing. The beard looked real, but now that I was looking closely, I could see a thin line where it attached to his face. The suit fit well, but the fabric bunched slightly at the shoulders in a way that looked uncomfortable. And those glasses. Those were definitely Dad's glasses, the ones with the small scratch on the left lens that he had gotten when he dropped them in the driveway last summer. Santa seemed to realize that I was not going to run back upstairs. He sighed, a deep, heavy sound, and reached up to adjust his beard. As he did, his hand brushed against the edge, and the beard shifted slightly, revealing a glimpse of familiar skin underneath. My breath caught in my throat. Santa, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Are you my dad? For a long moment, Santa did not answer. He just stood there, his shoulders slumping slightly, looking suddenly smaller and more human. Then, slowly, he reached up and pulled the beard down, revealing Dad's face underneath. His cheeks were flushed, whether from embarrassment or the warmth of the suit, I could not tell. His eyes looked sad and apologetic. Yeah, buddy, he said softly. It's me. The world seemed to tilt sideways. All the magic, all the wonder, All the belief that had sustained me through 7 Christmases came crashing down like a house of cards. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, hot and stinging. "You lied to me," I said, my voice cracking. "You and Mom. You both lied. Santa isn't real. It was all just pretend." Dad took a step toward me, his hand outstretched, but I backed away. The hurt on his face made my chest ache, but I was too angry, too betrayed to care. "Wait," he said. "Please, just wait. Let me explain." But I did not want to hear explanations. I did not want to hear excuses. I turned and ran back up the stairs, my feet pounding on the steps, not caring anymore about the noise. I threw myself into my bed and pulled the covers over my head, trying to muffle the sobs that were forcing their way out of my throat. I heard footsteps on the stairs, slow and heavy. Dad appeared in the doorway, still wearing the Santa suit, though he had removed the beard and hat. He looked ridiculous and sad all at once. The red suit seemed too bright, too cheerful for the moment. He crossed the room and sat on the edge of my bed, just as Mom had done earlier. I could feel the weight of him, the warmth of his presence, but I kept my face buried in the pillow. "I know you're upset," he said quietly. "And you have every right to be. But please, just listen for a minute. I need to tell you something. Something important." Despite myself, despite the anger and hurt, I was curious. I lowered the covers just enough to peek out at him. His face was serious, more serious than I had ever seen it. He took a deep breath, as if gathering his courage. "When I was about your age," he began, "I found out the same way you just did. I caught my dad, your grandfather, putting presents under the tree. I was devastated. I felt exactly like you do right now. Betrayed. Lied to. Like the whole world had been pulled out from under me." He paused, his eyes distant, as if he was looking back through the years. I was so angry that I refused to talk to him for days. Christmas morning came, and I opened my presents without any joy, without any excitement. I had decided that if Santa wasn't real, then Christmas wasn't real either. He shifted on the bed, the springs creaking softly. But then, a few days after Christmas, my dad sat me down, just like I'm sitting with you now. And he told me something that changed everything. He said that Santa Claus is real, but not in the way I had thought. Santa isn't one person who lives at the North Pole and flies around the world in one night. That would be impossible. But Santa is an idea. A spirit. A feeling of love and generosity and magic that lives in all of us. I frowned, not understanding. "But you were pretending," I said. "You were lying." Dad shook his head. "No, buddy. I wasn't lying. I was being Santa. You see, when you're young, your parents are Santa for you. They keep the magic alive. They make sure you believe in something wonderful and good. But when you get older, when you find out the truth, you don't stop believing in Santa. You become Santa. You become the one who creates the magic for others." He reached out and gently brushed the hair back from my forehead, the same gesture Mom had made earlier. "Tonight, I was being Santa for you and Emma. I was creating magic. I was making sure that when you wake up tomorrow morning, there will be presents under the tree and cookie crumbs on the plate and the feeling that something wonderful happened while you were sleeping. That's what Santa does. He makes people happy. He makes them believe in goodness and joy and love." I thought about this, turning it over in my mind. It still hurt. The loss of that simple, childlike belief was like a physical ache in my chest. But there was something else too. A new understanding. A sense that I was being let in on a secret, invited into a special club. So, I said slowly, when I grow up, I'll be Santa too. Dad smiled, and it was a real smile, warm and genuine. Exactly. You'll be Santa for your own kids someday. You'll stay up late wrapping presents and eating the cookies they leave out and making sure everything is perfect. And you'll do it because you love them and because you want them to experience that same magic you felt. But what about Emma? I asked. She still believes. Dad nodded. And that's wonderful. That's exactly how it should be. She gets to keep believing for as long as she needs to. And you, he poked me gently in the chest, you get to help keep that magic alive for her. You're part of the secret now. You're part of the team. Can you do that? Can you help me be Santa? I thought about Emma's face when she talked about Santa, the pure joy and excitement in her eyes. I thought about how she had carefully selected the biggest cookies for him, how she had been humming Christmas carols all day. Did I want to take that away from her? Did I want her to feel the same crushing disappointment I had felt? No. I did not. I wanted her to keep believing for as long as possible. Okay, I said quietly. I'll help. I won't tell her. Dad's smile grew wider, and he pulled me into a hug. The Santa suit was soft and warm, and he smelled like the cold night air mixed with Mom's perfume and the faint scent of the cookies from downstairs. Thank you, he whispered into my hair. You're a good kid. A good brother. And someday, you're going to be an amazing Santa. He pulled back and looked at me seriously. But there's one more thing I need to tell you. Something that my dad told me, and his dad told him. This is the real family secret. I leaned forward, intrigued. What is it? Dad took a deep breath. Being Santa isn't just about Christmas. It's about being the kind of person who brings joy and kindness into the world every single day. It's about helping people when they need it, even when no one is watching. It's about making the world a little bit better, a little bit brighter, just by being in it. That's what Santa really is. That's the magic. He stood up, adjusting the red suit. Now, I need to finish putting out the presents. And you need to get some sleep. Tomorrow is still going to be magical, I promise. But this time, you'll see it with new eyes. You'll understand what's really happening. I nodded and settled back into bed. Dad walked to the door, then paused and looked back at me. I love you, buddy. Merry Christmas. I love you too, Dad, I said. Merry Christmas. After he left, I lay in the darkness, my mind spinning with everything he had said. The hurt was still there, but it was softer now, mixed with something else. Pride, maybe. Or purpose. I was part of the secret now. I was part of the magic. And somehow, that felt even more special than believing in a man at the North Pole. I closed my eyes and listened to the sounds of Dad moving around downstairs, the rustle of paper, the soft thuds of presents being arranged. I was listening to Santa at work. I was listening to love in action. Sleep came eventually, though I do not remember drifting off. One moment I was awake, thinking about Santa and magic and secrets, and the next moment Emma was shaking my shoulder, her voice high and excited. Wake up! Wake up! It's Christmas. Santa came. I opened my eyes to find her bouncing on my bed, her blonde curls wild and her face flushed with joy. "Come on," she insisted, grabbing my hand and pulling. "We have to go see what he brought." I let her drag me out of bed and down the stairs. The house smelled like coffee and cinnamon rolls, and I could hear Mom in the kitchen, humming along to a Christmas song on the radio. We burst into the living room, and Emma gasped. The space under the tree was overflowing with presents, wrapped in colorful paper and topped with elaborate bows. The plate of cookies was empty except for a few crumbs, and the glass of milk had been drained. A note sat next to the plate, written in unfamiliar handwriting that was definitely not Dad's usual scrawl. Emma ran to the note and picked it up, her eyes wide. "What does it say?" she asked, thrusting it toward me. I took it and read aloud. "Thank you for the delicious cookies and milk. You have been very good children this year. Remember to always be kind and to help others. Love, Santa." Emma squealed and clapped her hands. "He was really here," she said. Santa was really here. I looked up and saw Dad standing in the doorway, wearing his normal clothes now, a cup of coffee in his hand. He caught my eye and winked. I smiled back, feeling a warm glow in my chest. "Yeah," I said to Emma. "He was really here." And I meant it. Because Santa had been here. Maybe not the Santa from the stories, but something real and true and even more magical. We spent the morning opening presents, the living room gradually disappearing under a sea of wrapping paper and ribbon. Emma got her dollhouse, a beautiful 3-story Victorian with tiny furniture and little dolls to live in it. She spent an hour just arranging and rearranging the rooms, narrating elaborate stories about the doll family. I got a new bike, red and shiny with chrome handlebars that gleamed in the morning light. I also got books and games and a model airplane kit that Dad promised to help me build. But the best present was not something I could unwrap. It was the secret I now shared with Dad. Throughout the morning, we exchanged knowing glances. When Emma talked about Santa's visit, describing in elaborate detail how she imagined he had come down the chimney and eaten the cookies, Dad and I smiled at each other. We were in on it together. We were part of the magic. After the presents were opened and the wrapping paper had been stuffed into garbage bags, we sat down to Christmas breakfast. Mom had made her famous cinnamon rolls, each one as big as a dinner plate and dripping with cream cheese frosting. We also had scrambled eggs and bacon and fresh orange juice. The table was set with the good china, the plates with the gold rim that we only used on special occasions. Sunlight streamed through the windows, making the snow outside sparkle like diamonds. As we ate, Dad told stories about Christmases from his childhood. He talked about the year it snowed so much that they could not open the front door and had to climb out a window. He talked about the time his little brother tried to stay awake all night to catch Santa and fell asleep in the hallway, blocking the stairs. He talked about his mother's terrible fruitcake that no one would eat but that she made every year anyway. We laughed until our sides hurt, and Emma begged for more stories. Later that afternoon, after we had cleaned up the breakfast dishes and Emma had gone back to playing with her dollhouse, Dad asked if I wanted to go for a walk. The sun was shining, and the snow had stopped falling, leaving everything covered in a pristine white blanket. I bundled up in my warmest coat, wrapped a scarf around my neck, and pulled on my boots. Dad did the same, and we stepped out into the cold. The air was crisp and clean, so cold it made my nose tingle and my breath come out in white puffs. The snow crunched under our boots with each step, a satisfying sound that echoed in the quiet neighborhood. Most people were inside, enjoying their own Christmas celebrations, and the streets were empty and peaceful. Icicles hung from the eaves of houses, catching the sunlight and throwing tiny rainbows onto the snow. We walked in comfortable silence for a while, just enjoying the beauty of the day. Then Dad spoke. "I want to tell you more about the family secret," he said. "About what it really means to be Santa." I looked up at him, curious. He was staring straight ahead, his breath creating small clouds in the cold air. "My grandfather, your great-grandfather, he started the tradition in our family. He was a good man, always helping people, always looking for ways to make life better for those around him. During the Great Depression, when so many people were struggling, he used to leave baskets of food on the doorsteps of families who were having a hard time. He never told anyone it was him. He just did it because it needed to be done. That was him being Santa." My father continued that tradition. Every Christmas, he would find someone who needed help and do something for them anonymously. One year, he paid the rent for a family who was about to be evicted. Another year, he bought winter coats for all the kids at the local orphanage. I thought about this as we walked, our footsteps leaving tracks in the fresh snow. "So what do you do?" I asked. Dad smiled. "This year, your mom and I have been helping the Johnson family. You know them, right? They live 3 streets over." I nodded. I knew the Johnsons. They had 4 kids, and Mr. Johnson had lost his job a few months ago. I had heard Mom and Dad talking about it in hushed voices. "We have been buying groceries for them," Dad continued, "leaving them on their porch at night so they do not know where they come from. We also paid their heating bill for the winter. They have been struggling, and we wanted to help." That is what being Santa means. It means seeing a need and filling it. It means making someone's life a little easier, a little brighter, without expecting anything in return. We turned a corner, and I saw the Johnson house up ahead. Smoke curled from the chimney, and through the windows, I could see the glow of their Christmas tree. The house looked warm and inviting, and I felt a surge of happiness knowing that Dad had helped make their Christmas better. "When will I get to do something like that?" I asked. "When will I get to be Santa for someone?" Dad stopped walking and knelt down so we were eye to eye. His face was serious but kind. "You can start right now," he said. "Being Santa does not mean you have to wait until you are grown up or have a lot of money. It means looking for opportunities to be kind every single day. It means sharing your lunch with a kid who forgot theirs. It means helping your sister with her homework even when you would rather be playing. It means shoveling the driveway for the elderly neighbor without being asked. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, is you being Santa." I thought about Mrs. Henderson, our next-door neighbor. She was old and lived alone, and I had seen her struggling to carry her groceries from the car just a few days ago. "I could help her," I said. "Mrs. Henderson. I could carry her groceries for her. And maybe shovel her walk when it snows." Dad's face broke into a huge smile. "That is perfect," he said. "That is exactly what I am talking about. You are already thinking like Santa." We continued our walk, and Dad told me more stories about the family tradition. He told me about his uncle who used to fix broken toys and give them to children who could not afford new ones. He told me about his aunt who volunteered at the hospital every Christmas, reading stories to sick children. He told me about his cousin who organized a toy drive every year, collecting presents for kids in foster care. The family secret was not just one thing. It was a whole way of living, a commitment to making the world better. By the time we got back home, my cheeks were numb from the cold and my toes felt like ice cubes in my boots. But my heart felt warm and full. I understood now what Dad had been trying to tell me. Santa was not a lie. Santa was a truth, just a different kind of truth than I had believed before. Santa was the spirit of giving and kindness that lived in all of us, waiting to be awakened and shared with the world. That evening, after a dinner of roast turkey and mashed potatoes and all the traditional Christmas foods, we gathered in the living room again. The tree lights twinkled, and the fire crackled in the fireplace. Emma was playing with her dollhouse, and Mom was reading a book. Dad sat in his favorite chair, and I curled up on the couch with a blanket. Everything felt peaceful and right. I found myself thinking about the year ahead, about all the opportunities one would have to be Santa. I thought about helping Mrs. Henderson and being nicer to Emma and maybe even starting my own tradition of kindness. The possibilities seemed endless. I also thought about the future, about growing up and having my own kids someday. I imagined myself putting on the Santa suit, just like Dad had done, and creating magic for them. The thought made me smile. As I sat there, warm and content, I realized something important. I had not lost anything when I discovered the truth about Santa. I had gained something. I had gained a deeper understanding of what Christmas really meant. I had gained a sense of purpose and responsibility. I had gained a connection to my family's history and traditions. And most importantly, I had gained the knowledge that magic is not something that happens to you. Magic is something you create. The next morning, I woke up early, before anyone else in the house. I got dressed quietly and slipped outside. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. The snow sparkled in the early light, and everything was silent and still. I walked next door to Mrs. Henderson's house and found her snow shovel leaning against the garage. For the next hour, I shoveled her driveway and walkway, my breath coming in white puffs, my muscles burning with the effort. When I finished, I put the shovel back and started to walk away. But then I heard the front door open. I turned to see Mrs. Henderson standing there in her bathrobe, her white hair still messy from sleep. She looked at her cleared driveway, then at me, and her face broke into the biggest smile I had ever seen. "Did you do this?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I nodded, suddenly feeling shy. "Merry Christmas, Mrs. Henderson," I said. She came down the steps carefully, holding onto the railing, and pulled me into a hug. Her arms were thin but strong, and she smelled like lavender and peppermint. "Thank you," she whispered. "You are such a sweet boy. This is the best Christmas present I could have asked for." When she pulled back, I saw tears in her eyes, but they were happy tears. I felt a warmth spread through my chest, a feeling of joy and satisfaction that was different from anything I had felt opening my own presents. I walked home slowly, savoring the feeling. When I came through the front door, I found Dad in the kitchen, making coffee. He looked at me, taking in my snow-covered boots and red cheeks, and raised an eyebrow. "Where have you been?" he asked. "I shoveled Mrs. Henderson's driveway," I said. His face softened, and he set down his coffee mug. He walked over and put his hand on my shoulder. "I am so proud of you," he said quietly. "You are already becoming Santa." The rest of that winter, I looked for opportunities to help. I carried groceries for Mrs. Henderson every time I saw her coming home from the store. I helped Emma with her reading homework, even though it was boring and she read so slowly. I shoveled driveways for 3 other neighbors after the next big snowstorm. I donated some of my old toys to a charity drive at school. Each act of kindness felt good, like I was adding to some invisible bank of goodness in the world. Years passed, and the tradition continued. When I was 10, Dad let me help him deliver the anonymous gifts to the family we were helping that year. When I was 12, I started my own project, collecting books for the children's ward at the hospital. When I was 15, I volunteered at a soup kitchen every Saturday. Dad was always there, encouraging me, helping me, showing me by example what it meant to be Santa. Emma found out the truth about Santa when she was 8. I was not there when it happened, but Dad told me about it later. She had woken up in the middle of the night and caught him, just like I had. And just like with me, he sat her down and explained the family secret. She cried at first, just as I had, but then she understood. And she became part of the team too. The 3 of us, Dad, Emma, and I, became the Santa Squad, as we jokingly called ourselves. We planned our acts of kindness together, pooled our allowances to buy gifts for families in need, and supported each other in our individual projects. One Christmas, when I was 16, something happened that showed me just how powerful the Santa spirit could be. There was a kid at my school named Marcus. He was quiet and kept to himself, and I had heard rumors that his home life was difficult. His clothes were always a little worn, and he never had money for lunch. I had seen him sitting alone in the cafeteria, eating a small sandwich that looked like it might be his only meal of the day. I talked to Dad about it, and we came up with a plan. We contacted the school counselor and arranged to anonymously pay for Marcus's lunches for the rest of the year. We also put together a care package with warm clothes, school supplies, and some gift cards for groceries. On the last day before Christmas break, we left the package in his locker with a note that said, "Someone believes in you. Keep being strong." We signed it, "From Santa." I did not know if it would make a difference. I did not know if Marcus would even care. But a few weeks into the new year, I saw him in the hallway. He looked different. He was standing up straighter, smiling more. He was talking to other kids, joining in conversations. And when he saw me, he nodded, a small gesture of acknowledgement. I do not know if he knew it was me who had helped him. But it did not matter. What mattered was that he was doing better. That experience taught me something important. Being Santa was not just about giving things. It was about giving hope. It was about showing people that they mattered, that someone cared, that they were not alone. It was about creating a ripple effect of kindness that could spread far beyond the initial act. Marcus started doing better in school. He joined the basketball team. He made friends. And years later, I heard that he had started volunteering at a youth center, helping other kids who were going through tough times. The kindness we had shown him had multiplied and spread to others. When I went away to college, I took the Santa tradition with me. I organized charity drives in my dorm. I volunteered at local shelters. I looked for students who seemed lonely or struggling and reached out to them. I told my roommate about the family secret, and he was so inspired that he started his own tradition of kindness. He began leaving encouraging notes in library books for other students to find. Small things, just a few words of encouragement, but they made a difference. I called home every week, and Dad always asked the same question. "How are you being Santa this week?" And I always had a story to share. The time I helped a classmate study for an exam she was terrified of failing. The time I bought coffee for the exhausted-looking woman behind me in line. The time I spent an afternoon playing board games with kids at a children's hospital. Each story made Dad proud, and his pride made me want to do more. During my senior year of college, I met Sarah. She was smart and funny and kind, with a laugh that sounded like music. We started dating, and as Christmas approached, I knew I needed to tell her about the family secret. I was nervous. What if she thought it was silly? What if she did not understand? But I need not have worried. When I told her the story of catching Dad dressed as Santa and learning about the tradition, her eyes filled with tears. "That is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard," she said. "I want to be part of that. I want to be Santa too." And she was. That Christmas, we volunteered together at a homeless shelter, serving meals and talking to people who had nowhere else to go. Sarah had a gift for making people feel seen and valued. She remembered names and asked about people's lives and listened with genuine interest. Watching her, I fell even more in love with her. We got married 2 years later, and Dad performed a special ceremony during the wedding reception. He stood up and told all our guests about the family secret, about the tradition of being Santa that had been passed down through generations. Then he officially welcomed Sarah into the Santa squad. He gave her a small silver ornament shaped like a star, the same ornament his father had given his mother when she joined the family. "It is not about the ornament," Dad said. "It is about what it represents. The commitment to kindness. The dedication to making the world better. Welcome to the family, Sarah." There was not a dry eye in the room. Even the tough guys, my college buddies who prided themselves on being cool and unemotional, were wiping at their eyes. After the reception, several people came up to us and said they wanted to start their own traditions of kindness. They wanted to be Santa too. The secret was spreading, and that felt right. The more people who embraced the Santa spirit, the better the world would be. Sarah and I settled into married life, and the Santa tradition became a central part of our relationship. We made it a point to do at least one act of kindness together every week. Sometimes it was big, like organizing a fundraiser for a family whose house had burned down. Sometimes it was small, like leaving flowers on the grave of someone who had no family to visit them. We kept a journal of our Santa activities, writing down what we did and how it made us feel. The journal filled up quickly, page after page of kindness and love. When our first child was born, a daughter we named Lily, I understood in a whole new way what Dad had meant about creating magic. Holding that tiny baby in my arms, feeling her warmth and hearing her soft breathing, I was overwhelmed with love and a fierce desire to make the world good enough for her. I wanted her to grow up believing in kindness and generosity and the power of one person to make a difference. As Lily grew, Sarah and I made sure to model the Santa spirit in everything we did. We involved her in our acts of kindness from an early age. When she was 3, she helped us bake cookies for the firefighters at the local station. When she was 4, she picked out toys from her own collection to donate to children who had less. When she was 5, she helped us rake leaves for an elderly couple down the street. She did not understand the full significance of what we were doing, but she was learning. She was absorbing the values that would shape her into the person she would become. When Lily was 7, the same age I had been when I discovered the truth, I knew the time was coming. Sarah and I talked about it, planning how we would handle it when she inevitably caught us playing Santa. We wanted to make sure we did it right, that we passed on the tradition in a way that honored its meaning. We decided that when the moment came, we would tell her the same story Dad had told me, about Santa being a spirit of kindness that lives in all of us. The moment came on Christmas Eve. Sarah and I had stayed up late, arranging presents under the tree and eating the cookies Lily had left out. We were just finishing up when we heard a sound on the stairs. We turned to see Lily standing there in her pajamas, her eyes wide, her mouth open in shock. For a moment, no one moved. Then Lily's face crumpled, and she started to cry. "You are Santa?" she said, her voice breaking. "It is not real?" My heart broke seeing her pain, the same pain I had felt all those years ago. But I also knew that this was an important moment, a turning point in her life. I knelt down and opened my arms, and she ran to me, burying her face in my shoulder. I held her while she cried, feeling her small body shake with sobs. Sarah came over and wrapped her arms around both of us, and we stayed like that for a long time, a family united in love and understanding. When Lily's tears finally subsided, I pulled back and looked at her. "I need to tell you a story," I said. "A story about when I was your age and I caught my dad being Santa." And I told her everything. I told her about the hurt and betrayal I had felt. I told her about Dad's explanation of what Santa really meant. I told her about the family tradition that had been passed down through generations. I told her about all the ways we had been Santa over the years, all the people we had helped, all the kindness we had spread. As I talked, I watched Lily's face change. The hurt was still there, but it was joined by curiosity, then understanding, then something that looked like excitement. "So I can be Santa too?" she asked. "You can be Santa too," Sarah confirmed. "In fact, you already have been. Every time you have helped us with our kindness projects, you have been being Santa. You just did not know it yet." Lily thought about this, her brow furrowed in concentration. "So Santa is not one person," she said slowly. "Santa is everyone who is kind and helps people." "Exactly," I said. "You have got it exactly right." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing everything. Then she looked up at me with those big, serious eyes. "I want to help more," she said. "I want to be a really good Santa." My heart swelled with pride and love. "You already are, sweetheart," I said. "But we can always find more ways to help. We can do it together." She nodded, satisfied, and then yawned hugely. "Can I still open presents tomorrow?" she asked. "Of course," I said, laughing. "That is part of the magic too." We tucked Lily back into bed, and this time she fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the emotional evening. Sarah and I went back downstairs and finished setting up for Christmas morning. As we worked, we talked about how well Lily had handled the revelation, how quickly she had grasped the true meaning of Santa. "We are raising a good kid," Sarah said, and I agreed. We were raising a Santa. The next morning, Lily woke up excited and happy, ready to open presents and enjoy Christmas. But there was a new maturity in her eyes, a new understanding. When her younger brother, who was only 3, talked about Santa with wide-eyed wonder, Lily smiled and played along, protecting his belief just as I had protected Emma's all those years ago. She was part of the secret now. She was part of the magic. In the days and weeks that followed, Lily threw herself into being Santa with the enthusiasm only a child can muster. She wanted to help everyone. She made cards for people in nursing homes. She donated her allowance to animal shelters. She started a kindness club at school where kids could share ideas for helping others. Watching her, I was reminded of myself at that age, newly initiated into the Santa tradition and eager to make a difference. Years continued to pass, and the tradition grew stronger with each generation. Lily grew up and went to college, where she started a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping homeless youth. She met a wonderful man named David who shared her passion for service, and when they got married, we welcomed him into the Santa squad with the same ceremony Dad had used for Sarah. They had children of their own, twin boys who were as energetic and kind-hearted as their mother had been. Dad lived to see his great-grandchildren, and there was nothing that made him happier than watching them learn about the Santa tradition. He was older now, his hair completely white, his movements slower, but his spirit was as strong as ever. He still looked for ways to help people, still encouraged all of us to be Santa in our daily lives. On his 80th birthday, we threw him a surprise party, and people came from all over to celebrate him. Many of them were people he had helped over the years, people whose lives he had touched with his kindness. One by one, they stood up and told stories. The woman whose rent he had paid when she was about to be evicted, who had gone on to become a successful businesswoman and now ran her own charity. The man whose medical bills he had helped with, who had recovered and now volunteered at the hospital. The child he had bought winter coats for, now a teacher who made sure all her students had what they needed. The stories went on, a testament to a life lived in service to others. Dad sat there with tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed by the impact he had had. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up and looked at Dad. "You taught me the most important lesson of my life," I said. "You taught me that magic is real, but it is not something that happens to us. It is something we create. You taught me that being Santa is not about one night a year. It is about every single day. It is about choosing kindness, choosing generosity, choosing to make the world better. You taught me that the greatest gift we can give is not something that comes in a box. It is the gift of ourselves, our time, our compassion, our love." I paused, my voice thick with emotion. "You taught me that Santa Claus is real, and he looks like you. He looks like Mom. He looks like Sarah and Lily and Emma and everyone in this room who has chosen to live a life of kindness. Thank you for passing on this tradition. Thank you for showing me what it means to be Santa." The room erupted in applause, and Dad stood up and hugged me, holding on tight. "I am so proud of you," he whispered. "I am so proud of all of you." Dad passed away the following winter, just after Christmas. It was peaceful. He went to sleep one night and simply did not wake up. We were heartbroken, but we also knew that he had lived a full and meaningful life. At his funeral, the church was packed with people whose lives he had touched. The pastor talked about Dad's generosity and kindness, about how he had embodied the spirit of Christmas every single day of his life. And at the end of the service, I stood up and told the story of the night I caught him dressed as Santa, the night that changed my life forever. I told everyone about the family secret, about the tradition that had been passed down through generations. I told them that Dad's legacy was not just in the specific acts of kindness he had performed, but in the spirit of giving he had instilled in all of us. And I challenged everyone there to carry on that legacy, to be Santa in their own lives, to look for opportunities to spread kindness and joy. If we all do that, I said, then Dad's spirit will live on forever. He will never truly be gone as long as we continue to be Santa. After the funeral, our family gathered at the house where I had grown up, the house where I had caught Dad being Santa all those years ago. We sat in the living room, the same room where the Christmas tree had stood, where the presents had been piled, where the magic had happened. Emma was there with her husband and kids. Lily was there with David and the twins. Sarah sat beside me, holding my hand. We were all grieving, but we were also grateful. Grateful for the time we had had with Dad. Grateful for the lessons he had taught us. Grateful for the tradition he had started. We decided that night to formalize the tradition, to make sure it would continue for generations to come. We created what we called the Santa Covenant, a written document that explained the family secret and the commitment we were all making to live lives of kindness and service. Each family member signed it, promising to uphold the tradition and to pass it on to their children. We also established a family foundation in Dad's name, dedicated to supporting charitable causes and helping people in need. It would be our way of continuing his work on a larger scale. The years that followed were filled with both joy and challenge. Life is never simple, never easy. There were times when money was tight, when health problems arose, when relationships were strained. But through it all, the Santa tradition sustained us. It gave us purpose and direction. It reminded us of what was truly important. When things got hard, we would ask ourselves, what would Santa do? And that question would guide us toward the right choice, the kind choice, the generous choice. I watched my grandchildren grow up, and I made sure to tell them the story of their great-grandfather, the man who had started it all. I told them about the night I caught him dressed as Santa, about the conversation that had changed my understanding of Christmas and of life itself. I told them about all the ways he had been Santa throughout his life, all the people he had helped, all the kindness he had spread. And I told them that they carried his legacy in their hearts, that they had the power to be Santa too. When Lily's twins were 7 years old, the same age I had been when I discovered the truth, I knew the cycle was about to repeat itself. Sure enough, on Christmas Eve, one of them, a boy named Jack, caught Lily and David putting presents under the tree. I was there that night, visiting for the holidays, and I watched from the doorway as Lily knelt down and began to tell Jack the same story that had been told to me, that I had told to her. The story of what Santa really means. The story of the family secret. Jack listened with wide eyes, his initial hurt and confusion gradually transforming into understanding and excitement. When Lily finished, Jack looked over and saw me standing in the doorway. He ran to me and threw his arms around my waist. "Grandpa," he said, his voice muffled against my shirt. "I want to be a good Santa like you and Great-Grandpa." I knelt down and looked into his eyes, seeing in them the same spark I had seen in Lily's eyes, and my own eyes all those years ago. "You already are, buddy," I said. "You already are." That night, after Jack and his brother had gone to bed, the adults sat around the fireplace, sipping hot chocolate and talking. We shared stories of our Santa activities from the past year. Lily talked about the scholarship program her nonprofit had started for homeless youth. Emma talked about the community garden she had helped establish in a low-income neighborhood. Sarah talked about the literacy program she volunteered with, teaching adults to read. Each story was a testament to the power of the tradition, to the ripple effect of kindness that Dad had started so many years ago. As I listened to my family talk, I felt a profound sense of peace and gratitude. This was Dad's true legacy. Not money or possessions or achievements, but this. A family committed to making the world better. A tradition of kindness that would outlive all of us. A spirit of generosity that would continue to spread and grow with each passing generation. Dad had been right all those years ago. Santa Claus was real. Santa was all of us, choosing every day to be kind, to be generous, to be loving. I am an old man now, much older than Dad was when I caught him dressed as Santa. My hair is white, my hands shake sometimes, my knees ache when it rains. But I still look for ways to be Santa every single day. I still volunteer at the soup kitchen every Saturday. I still leave anonymous gifts for families in need. I still try to spread kindness wherever I go. Because that is what Santa does. That is who Santa is. Last Christmas Eve, I put on the Santa suit for the first time in years. It was the same suit Dad had worn, carefully preserved and passed down through the family. It still smelled faintly of the cold night air and cookies and magic. I wore it to the children's hospital, where I visited sick kids and gave out presents and tried to bring a little joy into their difficult lives. One little girl, bald from chemotherapy, looked up at me with tired eyes and asked, "Are you the real Santa?" I knelt down beside her bed and took her small hand in mine. "Yes," I said. "I am the real Santa. And so is your mom, who sits with you every day. And so is your nurse, who takes such good care of you. And so is your doctor, who is working hard to make you better. Santa is everyone who shows you love and kindness. Santa is real, and Santa is everywhere." She smiled, a small but genuine smile, and squeezed my hand. "Thank you, Santa," she whispered. As I left the hospital that night, walking out into the cold December air, I thought about that little girl and all the other people I had encountered over the years. I thought about Marcus, the boy from high school whose life had been changed by a simple act of kindness. I thought about Mrs. Henderson, my elderly neighbor who had been so grateful for a shoveled driveway. I thought about the Johnson family, struggling to make ends meet, who had been helped by anonymous gifts. I thought about all the people Dad had helped, all the lives he had touched. And I realized something profound. The magic of Santa is not in the presents or the cookies or the flying reindeer. The magic of Santa is in the connection between human beings, and the recognition that we are all in this together, that we all have the power to make each other's lives better. The magic of Santa is in the choice to be kind when we could be indifferent, to be generous when we could be selfish, to be loving when we could be cold. That is the real magic. That is the real Christmas miracle. I am telling you this story now because I want you to know the secret. I want you to understand what Santa really is. Maybe you are 7 years old and you just caught your parents putting presents under the tree. Maybe you are 17 and you have long since stopped believing in the man at the North Pole. Maybe you are 70 and you think you know everything there is to know about Christmas. It does not matter. The secret is the same for everyone. Santa Claus is real. Santa is the spirit of kindness and generosity that lives in all of us. Santa is the choice we make every day to be better, to do better, to make the world a little brighter. Santa is the parent who works 2 jobs to provide for their children. Santa is the teacher who stays late to help a struggling student. Santa is the stranger who pays for someone's groceries when their card is declined. Santa is the friend who listens when you need to talk. Santa is the neighbor who shovels your driveway. Santa is you, when you choose to be kind. You do not need a red suit or a white beard or a sleigh pulled by reindeer. You do not need to live at the North Pole or have a workshop full of elves. You just need to have a heart that is open to the needs of others and a willingness to help. That is all it takes to be Santa. That is all it has ever taken. So I am inviting you, right now, to join the tradition. To become Santa. Look around you and see where you can help. Maybe it is something big, like starting a charity or volunteering at a shelter. Maybe it is something small, like holding the door for someone or offering a smile to a stranger. It does not matter how big or small the act is. What matters is the intention behind it, the choice to spread kindness and joy. And when you do these things, when you choose to be Santa, pay attention to how it makes you feel. Notice the warmth that spreads through your chest. Notice the smile that comes to your face. Notice the sense of purpose and connection. That feeling is the real magic of Christmas. That feeling is what Dad was trying to teach me all those years ago when I caught him dressed as Santa. That feeling is what makes life worth living. I think about Dad often, especially during the Christmas season. I think about that night when I caught him, about how devastated I was to learn that Santa was not a magical man from the North Pole. I think about how patient he was with me, how gently he explained the truth. I think about all the years that followed, all the kindness we shared, all the lives we touched together. And I am grateful. Grateful for the lesson he taught me. Grateful for the tradition he passed on. Grateful for the love he showed me every single day. If Dad were here now, I know what he would say. He would say that he is proud of me, proud of our family, proud of how we have carried on the tradition. He would say that the Santa spirit is alive and well, growing stronger with each generation. He would say that this is what Christmas is really about. Not the presents or the decorations or the fancy meals, but the love, the kindness, the connection, the choice to be Santa. And so, as I sit here on this Christmas Eve, in the same house where it all began, I am filled with hope. Hope for my family and for the world. Hope that the Santa tradition will continue for many more generations. Hope that more and more people will discover the secret and choose to be Santa in their own lives. Because if we all do that, if we all commit to spreading kindness and joy, then the world will be transformed. It will become the kind of place we all dream of, a place where everyone is cared for, where no one is forgotten, where love is the guiding principle. The snow is falling outside my window right now, just as it was falling that night so many years ago. The Christmas tree lights are twinkling in the corner. The scent of cinnamon and pine fills the air. Everything looks the same as it did back then. But everything is different too. Because I am different. I understand now what I could not understand as a 7-year-old boy. I understand that magic is real, but it is not what I thought it was. Magic is not something that happens to us. Magic is something we create, every day, with every choice we make. Tomorrow morning, my great-grandchildren will wake up and run downstairs to see what Santa brought them. They will squeal with delight at the presents under the tree. They will eat the cookies we bake together and drink hot chocolate and play with their new toys. And it will be magical. Not because of the presents, but because of the love that surrounds them. Because of the family that has gathered to celebrate together. Because of the tradition that connects us all across the years and the generations. And someday, maybe next year or maybe in 5 years, one of them will catch us putting presents under the tree. They will feel that same shock and hurt that I felt, that Lily felt, that Jack felt. And we will sit them down and tell them the story. We will explain what Santa really is. We will invite them to join the tradition, to become Santa themselves. And the cycle will continue, as it has continued for generations, as it will continue for generations to come. This is the family secret. This is the truth about Santa Claus. He is real. He has always been real. He is in you and in me and in everyone who chooses kindness over cruelty, generosity over selfishness, love over hate. He is the best part of human nature, the part that wants to give and help and make others happy. He is the spirit of Christmas, alive and well and waiting to be awakened in each of us. So tonight, on this Christmas Eve, I am asking you to make a choice. Choose to be Santa. Choose to spread kindness and joy. Choose to make someone's life a little better, a little brighter. It does not have to be a grand gesture. It can be something small and simple. But do something. Be Santa. And then tomorrow, do it again. And the day after that. Make it a habit, a way of life, a tradition that you pass on to your own children and grandchildren. Because that is how we change the world. Not through grand pronouncements or sweeping reforms, though those have their place. But through small acts of kindness, repeated over and over, day after day, year after year. Through the choice to be Santa, to embody that spirit of love and generosity. That is how we create magic. That is how we make Christmas real, not just one day a year, but every single day. I look at the photograph on the mantle, the one of Dad in his Santa suit, his eyes twinkling behind those wire-rimmed glasses. He is smiling, and I can almost hear his voice, warm and gentle, telling me that he is proud. Telling me to keep going, to keep being Santa, to keep spreading the magic. And I will. For as long as I have breath in my body, I will continue the tradition. I will continue to be Santa. And I hope you will too. I hope you will take this story and let it change you, the way Dad's story changed me all those years ago. I hope you will look for opportunities to be kind, to be generous, to be loving. I hope you will become Santa, not just at Christmas, but every day of the year. Because the world needs more Santas. The world needs more people who choose kindness, who spread joy, who make magic happen. That is the secret. That is the truth. Santa Claus is real, and he is you. He is me. He is all of us, when we choose to be our best selves. When we choose to give rather than take, to help rather than harm, to love rather than hate. That is Santa. That is Christmas. That is the magic that never dies, that never fades, that lives on forever in the hearts of those who believe. So as this Christmas Eve comes to a close, as the snow continues to fall and the world grows quiet and still, I want to leave you with one final thought. The greatest gift you can give this Christmas, or any day, is not something that comes wrapped in paper with a bow on top. The greatest gift is yourself. Your time. Your attention. Your kindness. Your love. That is what people really need. That is what makes a difference. That is what being Santa is all about. Go out into the world and be Santa. Look for the person who needs help and help them. Look for the person who is lonely and befriend them. Look for the person who is struggling and support them. Be the light in someone's darkness. Be the hope in someone's despair. Be the love in someone's life. That is your calling. That is your purpose. That is the family secret that I am now sharing with you. And when you do these things, when you live this way, you will discover something wonderful. You will discover that being Santa does not just help others. It helps you too. It fills you with joy and purpose and meaning. It connects you to something larger than yourself. It makes you part of a tradition that spans generations and touches countless lives. It makes you part of the magic. I am an old man now, and I do not know how many more Christmases I will see. But I know this. When my time comes, when I take my last breath and close my eyes for the final time, I will do so with peace in my heart. Because I will know that I lived a life that mattered. I will know that I was Santa. I will know that I made a difference. And I will know that the tradition will continue, carried on by my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, spreading kindness and joy for generations to come. That is my legacy. That is what I will leave behind. Not money or possessions or achievements, but this. A family committed to kindness. A tradition of generosity. A spirit of love that will never die. That is what Dad left for me, and that is what I am leaving for those who come after me. That is the real treasure, the real magic, the real meaning of Christmas. So thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for letting me share the family secret with you. And thank you, in advance, for choosing to be Santa. Because I know you will. I know that this story has touched something in you, awakened something that was always there but maybe had been sleeping. I know that you will go out into the world and spread kindness and joy. I know that you will make a difference. And when you do, when you perform that first act of Santa kindness, think of me. Think of Dad. Think of all the generations of Santas who came before you and all the generations who will come after. Think of the little girl in the hospital and the boy at school and the elderly neighbor and all the countless people whose lives have been touched by the Santa spirit. Think of them, and know that you are part of something beautiful and important and eternal. Merry Christmas. May your days be filled with joy and your heart be filled with love. May you always remember that Santa is real and that Santa is you. May you carry the tradition forward, spreading kindness wherever you go. And may you always, always believe in the magic. Because the magic is real. The magic is love. The magic is us, choosing every day to be Santa, to make the world a little bit better, a little bit brighter, a little bit more magical. The clock on the mantle chimes midnight, and Christmas Day has officially arrived. Outside, the snow has stopped falling, and the world is blanketed in white, pristine and perfect. The stars are visible now, twinkling in the clear night sky like tiny diamonds. Everything is peaceful. Everything is still. Everything is exactly as it should be. I stand up slowly, my old bones creaking in protest, and walk to the window. I look out at the neighborhood, at the houses with their Christmas lights glowing warmly in the darkness. I think about all the families inside those houses, all the children dreaming of Santa, all the parents staying up late to create magic. I think about all the acts of kindness that will happen tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. I think about the Santa spirit, alive and well and spreading throughout the world. And I smile. Because I know the secret. I know that Santa is real. I know that magic exists. I know that love is the most powerful force in the universe. And I know that as long as there are people who choose kindness, who choose generosity, who choose to be Santa, the world will be okay. More than okay. The world will be magical. I turn away from the window and look at the Christmas tree, its lights still twinkling faithfully. Under the tree are presents for my family, wrapped with care and love. Tomorrow they will open them and there will be joy and laughter and gratitude. But the real gift is not in those boxes. The real gift is the tradition we share, the love that binds us together, the commitment we have all made to be Santa. I walk over to the tree and reach out to touch one of the ornaments, the silver star that Dad gave to Sarah when she joined the family. It is cool and smooth under my fingers, and it catches the light from the tree, throwing tiny sparkles onto the wall. This ornament has witnessed so many Christmases, so many moments of joy and love. It has been there through births and deaths, through triumphs and struggles, through all the ups and downs of life. And it will be there for many more Christmases to come, a symbol of the tradition that connects us all. I think about the journey that started that night when I was 7 years old, when I caught Dad dressed as Santa. I think about how devastated I was, how my world seemed to crumble. I think about how Dad patiently explained the truth, how he invited me into the secret, how he showed me what Santa really meant. And I think about how that one conversation changed the entire trajectory of my life. Because of that night, I learned to look for opportunities to help others. Because of that night, I learned that magic is something we create, not something that happens to us. Because of that night, I learned that the greatest joy in life comes not from receiving, but from giving. Because of that night, I became Santa. And becoming Santa made me who I am today. I wonder what my life would have been like if Dad had not told me the truth that night. What if he had just sent me back to bed and told me to forget what I had seen? What if he had not shared the family secret with me? Would I have become a different person? Would I have lived a different life? I think the answer is yes. That conversation was a turning point, a moment that set me on a path of kindness and service that has defined my entire existence. And now I have passed that gift on to my own children and grandchildren. I have told them the story. I have shared the secret. I have invited them to be Santa. And they have embraced it with the same enthusiasm and commitment that I did. The tradition is alive and well, growing stronger with each generation. And that gives me hope. Hope for my family. Hope for the world. Hope for the future. I hear a sound behind me and turn to see Sarah standing in the doorway. She is wearing her bathrobe, her gray hair loose around her shoulders. She looks tired but happy, and when she sees me, she smiles. Could not sleep? She asks softly. I shake my head. Just thinking, I say. About Dad. About the tradition. About everything. She walks over and slips her hand into mine. It is a good tradition, she says. The best tradition. I am so grateful to be part of it. We stand there together, hand in hand, looking at the Christmas tree. We have been married for over 40 years, and in that time, we have been Santa together countless times. We have helped so many people, spread so much kindness, created so much magic. And we have done it together, as partners, as a team. That is one of the greatest blessings of my life. Having someone to be Santa with. Having someone who understands and shares the commitment. What are you thinking about? Sarah asks. I am thinking about how lucky I am, I say. Lucky to have had Dad as a father. Lucky to have you as a wife. Lucky to have our children and grandchildren. Lucky to be part of this tradition. Lucky to know the secret. Lucky to be Santa. She squeezes my hand. We are all lucky, she says. This tradition, this family, this love. It is a gift. The greatest gift. We stand there for a few more minutes, just being together, enjoying the peace and beauty of the moment. Then Sarah yawns and says, we should get some sleep. The kids will be here early tomorrow, and you know how excited the little ones get. I nod and follow her upstairs, taking one last look at the Christmas tree before I turn off the lights. The ornaments gleam in the darkness, and the star on top seems to glow with its own inner light. It is beautiful. It is magical. It is Christmas. In bed, I lie awake for a while longer, my mind still racing with thoughts and memories. I think about all the Christmases I have experienced, all the moments of joy and wonder. I think about the first Christmas after I learned the truth, how different it felt, how much more meaningful. I think about the Christmas when Sarah and I got engaged, when I gave her a ring under the tree and she said yes with tears in her eyes. I think about the Christmas when Lily was born, how we brought her home from the hospital on Christmas Eve and she slept peacefully in her bassinet next to the tree. I think about the Christmas after Dad died, how hard it was, how much we missed him, but how we felt his presence in everything we did. I think about the Christmas when Jack learned the truth, when the tradition was passed on to yet another generation. Each Christmas has been special in its own way, each one adding to the tapestry of memories and love that makes up our family story. And I think about tomorrow, about the Christmas that is just beginning. I think about the joy on the children's faces when they open their presents. I think about the laughter and conversation around the dinner table. I think about the stories we will tell and the memories we will make. I think about the love that will fill our home, the same love that has filled it every Christmas for as long as I can remember. But most of all, I think about the tradition. I think about how it will continue long after I am gone. I think about my great-great-grandchildren, children I will never meet, learning the secret and choosing to be Santa. I think about the kindness they will spread, the lives they will touch, the magic they will create. And I am filled with a sense of peace and contentment. Because I know that the tradition is secure. I know that it will endure. I know that Santa will live on forever. That is the real immortality, I realize. Not living forever yourself, but creating something that will outlive you. Creating a legacy of love and kindness that will continue for generations. That is what Dad did. That is what I have tried to do. And that is what my children and grandchildren will do. We are all links in a chain that stretches back into the past and forward into the future, a chain of Santas, a chain of love. Finally, sleep begins to claim me. My thoughts grow fuzzy and disconnected. The last thing I think before I drift off is a memory of Dad, standing in the living room in his Santa suit, his eyes twinkling behind his glasses. He is smiling at me, and I can hear his voice, warm and gentle, saying the words he said to me that night so many years ago. You are already becoming Santa. I am so proud of you. And I smile, there in the darkness, and whisper back, thank you, Dad. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the secret. Thank you for showing me what it means to be Santa. Then sleep takes me, and I dream of Christmas mornings and twinkling lights and the sound of children's laughter and the feeling of love that surrounds us all, always and forever. Christmas morning arrives with the sound of excited voices and running feet. The children have arrived, and they are eager to see what Santa brought. I get up and get dressed, moving slowly but with purpose. Sarah is already downstairs, and I can hear her greeting the family, her voice warm and welcoming. I take a moment to look at myself in the mirror. An old man looks back at me, with white hair and wrinkled skin and eyes that have seen many years. But those eyes are bright and alive, filled with joy and love. Those are Santa's eyes. I go downstairs and am immediately engulfed in hugs and kisses. The children are bouncing with excitement, and the adults are smiling and laughing. The house is filled with noise and energy and love. This is what Christmas is all about. Not the presents or the decorations, but this. Family. Connection. Love. I settle into my favorite chair and watch as the children tear into their presents, their faces glowing with happiness. Lily catches my eye and smiles, and I know she is thinking the same thing I am. We are creating magic right now. We are being Santa. And it feels wonderful. After the presents are opened and the wrapping paper has been cleaned up, we gather in the kitchen for breakfast. The table is laden with food, pancakes and bacon and eggs and fresh fruit and pastries. We eat and talk and laugh, and the conversation flows easily, naturally. At one point, Jack, who is now 10 years old and fully initiated into the Santa tradition, leans over to me and whispers, "Grandpa, I have been being Santa. I helped an old lady carry her groceries last week, and I gave some of my allowance to a homeless man." My heart swells with pride. "That is wonderful, buddy," I say. "You are doing great. Keep it up." He grins and goes back to his pancakes, and I feel a sense of deep satisfaction. The tradition is alive and well in him. He gets it. He understands. After breakfast, we move to the living room for our annual tradition of sharing Santa stories. Each person takes a turn telling about an act of kindness they performed during the year. Emma talks about organizing a coat drive for homeless people. Lily talks about the new program her nonprofit started to help homeless youth get job training. David talks about mentoring a troubled teenager who was at risk of dropping out of school. Sarah talks about the adult literacy program and the woman she helped learn to read, who cried tears of joy when she read her first book. When it is my turn, I talk about the little girl in the hospital, the one who asked if I was the real Santa. I talk about how I told her that Santa is everyone who shows love and kindness, and how she smiled and squeezed my hand. As I tell the story, I see tears in several people's eyes. These stories move us. They remind us of why we do what we do. They remind us of the power of kindness and the importance of the tradition. Then Jack raises his hand shyly. "Can I tell a story?" he asks. "Of course," we all say. He takes a deep breath and begins. "There is a kid at my school named Tyler. He does not have many friends, and some of the other kids are mean to him. So I started sitting with him at lunch. At first, he did not talk much, but after a while, he started opening up. Now we are friends. And some of the other kids have started being nicer to him too. I think maybe I helped make things better for him." The room is silent for a moment, and then we all start clapping. Jack's face turns red, but he is smiling. "That is exactly what being Santa is all about," I say. "You saw someone who needed a friend, and you became that friend. You made his life better. You are a true Santa." Jack's smile grows even wider, and I can see the pride and happiness in his eyes. He understands. He really, truly understands. The rest of the day passes in a blur of food and games and laughter. We play board games and watch Christmas movies and eat too much and enjoy each other's company. As the sun begins to set and the day draws to a close, I find myself sitting by the window again, looking out at the snow-covered neighborhood. The street lamps are coming on, casting pools of golden light on the white ground. Smoke curls from chimneys. Lights twinkle in windows. Everything looks peaceful and perfect. Sarah comes and sits beside me, and we watch the sunset together. "It has been a good day," she says. "The best," I agree. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Then Sarah says, "You know, I have been thinking about the tradition. About how it has shaped our lives and our family. And I am just so grateful. Grateful that your dad shared it with you. Grateful that you shared it with me. Grateful that we have been able to pass it on. It has made our lives so much richer, so much more meaningful." I nod, feeling the same gratitude. "It really has," I say. "I cannot imagine my life without it. Without the commitment to kindness, without the focus on helping others, without the sense of purpose it gives me. Being Santa has been the defining characteristic of my life. It has shaped every decision I have made, every relationship I have built, every action I have taken. And I would not change a thing. We sit there as the light fades and the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. One by one, the family members start to leave, bundling up in coats and scarves and heading out into the cold night. There are hugs and kisses and promises to see each other soon. The children are tired but happy, their faces still glowing with the joy of the day. As the last car pulls away, Sarah and I stand in the doorway, waving goodbye. Then we close the door and turn back to the quiet house. The Christmas tree still twinkles in the corner, and the fire has burned down to glowing embers. We clean up together, washing dishes and putting away leftovers and straightening the living room. It is peaceful work, and we do it in companionable silence. When everything is clean and tidy, we turn off the lights and head upstairs to bed. As I lie in bed that night, I think about the day that has just passed. I think about the joy and laughter, the stories and the love. I think about Jack and his act of kindness toward Tyler. I think about how the tradition is continuing, how it is being passed on to yet another generation. And I feel a deep sense of peace and satisfaction. This is what life is all about. This is what matters. Not money or success or fame, but love and kindness and connection. I think about Dad and how proud he would be if he could see us now. How proud he would be of the family we have built, of the tradition we have maintained, of the kindness we have spread. I like to think that he can see us, somehow, from wherever he is. I like to think that he is smiling, knowing that his legacy lives on, that the Santa spirit is alive and well in his children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And I think about the future, about all the Christmases yet to come. I do not know how many more I will see. I am old, and my time is limited. But I am not afraid. Because I know that the tradition will continue. I know that my family will carry on being Santa long after I am gone. I know that the kindness will spread and multiply and touch countless lives. And that knowledge brings me comfort and joy. I close my eyes and let sleep take me, and as I drift off, I am filled with gratitude. Gratitude for the life I have lived. Gratitude for the people I have loved. Gratitude for the tradition that has given my life meaning and purpose. Gratitude for the opportunity to be Santa, to spread kindness and joy, to make a difference in the world. It has been a good life. A life well lived. A life of love. And as I sleep, I dream. I dream of Dad, young and strong, dressed in his Santa suit, his eyes twinkling with joy. I dream of all the people we have helped over the years, their faces smiling with gratitude. I dream of my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, carrying on the tradition, being Santa, spreading love and kindness throughout the world. I dream of a future where everyone understands the secret, where everyone chooses to be Santa, where kindness is the norm rather than the exception. It is a beautiful dream. A hopeful dream. A dream of a better world. And when I wake up the next morning, I am filled with renewed determination to make that dream a reality. Because that is what being Santa is all about. It is about believing in a better world and then working to create it. It is about not accepting things as they are, but imagining how they could be and then taking action to make it happen. It is about being the change you want to see in the world. So I get up and get dressed and go downstairs. Sarah is already in the kitchen, making coffee. "Good morning," she says, smiling at me. "Good morning," I reply. "What should we do today?" She thinks for a moment. "Well," she says, "I heard that the Johnsons are struggling again. Maybe we could put together a care package for them." I nod. "That sounds perfect. Let us be Santa today." And so we do. We spend the day putting together a box of groceries and household items, things we know the Johnsons need. We add some gift cards and a note of encouragement. Then, as evening falls, we drive to their house and leave the box on their porch, ringing the doorbell and hurrying away before anyone can see us. As we drive home, I feel that familiar warmth in my chest, that sense of joy and purpose that comes from helping others. This is what being Santa feels like. This is the magic. The days turn into weeks, and the weeks turn into months. Winter gives way to spring, and spring gives way to summer. But the Santa tradition does not stop just because Christmas is over. We continue to look for opportunities to help, to spread kindness, to be Santa. Because as Dad taught me all those years ago, being Santa is not about one day a year. It is about every single day. It is a way of life, a commitment, a choice we make over and over again. I continue to volunteer at the soup kitchen every Saturday. Sarah continues her work with the literacy program. Lily's nonprofit continues to grow and help more homeless youth. Emma's community garden flourishes, providing fresh vegetables to families in need. Jack continues to befriend kids at school who need a friend. The tradition lives on in all of us, in everything we do. We are Santa, every single day. And as the year progresses and Christmas approaches once again, I find myself thinking about the cycle of it all. How each Christmas brings new opportunities to create magic, to spread joy, to be Santa. How the tradition renews itself year after year, generation after generation. How it never gets old or stale, but always feels fresh and meaningful. Because kindness never goes out of style. Love never becomes obsolete. The need for Santa never diminishes. This Christmas Eve, as I sit in the same chair where I have sat for so many years, watching the same Christmas tree lights twinkle in the same corner, I am struck by how much has changed and how much has stayed the same. The faces around me are different. Some people are gone, missed but not forgotten. New people have joined the family, bringing fresh energy and love. But the tradition remains constant. The commitment to being Santa remains strong. The love remains eternal. I look around at my family, gathered together to celebrate Christmas. I see Sarah, my partner in all things, my fellow Santa, the love of my life. I see Lily and David and their boys, the next generation of Santas. I see Emma and her family, carrying on the tradition in their own way. I see the youngest members of the family, not yet old enough to know the secret, but already learning by example what it means to be kind and generous. And I am filled with such overwhelming love and gratitude that I feel like my heart might burst. This is my legacy. This family, this tradition, this love, this is what I will leave behind when I am gone. And it is more than enough. It is everything. As midnight approaches and Christmas Day arrives, I stand up and raise my glass. I want to make a toast, I say. Everyone quiets down and turns to look at me. To Dad, I say, my voice thick with emotion. The man who started this tradition. The man who taught me what it means to be Santa. The man who showed me that magic is real and that love is the most powerful force in the universe. To Dad, and to all of us, who carry on his legacy. May we always remember to be Santa. May we always choose kindness. May we always spread love. To Dad, everyone echoes, raising their glasses. We drink, and then there are hugs and tears and laughter. It is a perfect moment, a moment of pure love and connection. A moment that captures everything the Santa tradition is about. And as I stand there, surrounded by my family, I know with absolute certainty that Dad is here with us. Not physically, but in spirit. In the love we share. In the kindness we spread. In the tradition we uphold. He is here, and he always will be. The night continues with more stories and songs and laughter. The children eventually fall asleep, worn out from the excitement. The adults stay up late, talking and reminiscing and enjoying each other's company. And when everyone finally goes to bed, Sarah and I are left alone once again, just as we were the year before and the year before that. We stand by the Christmas tree, hand in hand, looking at the ornaments and the lights. Another Christmas, Sarah says softly. Another year of being Santa. I nod. And many more to come, I say. For our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The tradition will continue. She squeezes my hand. Yes, she says. It will. Because we have built something strong and beautiful and lasting. We have built a legacy of love. We turn off the lights and head upstairs, and as I climb into bed for the last time this Christmas, I am at peace. I have lived a good life. I have loved deeply and been loved in return. I have made a difference in the world. I have been Santa. And that is all anyone can ask for. That is the true meaning of a life well lived. As I close my eyes and drift towards sleep, I think one last time about that night so many years ago when I caught Dad dressed as Santa. I think about how that moment changed everything, how it set me on a path that has defined my entire life. I think about the conversation we had, the secret he shared, the invitation he extended. And I am grateful. So deeply, profoundly grateful. Because that night, I learned the most important lesson of my life. I learned that Santa Claus is real. Not as a man in a red suit who lives at the North Pole, but as a spirit of kindness and generosity that lives in all of us. I learned that magic is real, but it is not something that happens to us. It is something we create through our choices and our actions. I learned that the greatest gift we can give is not something material, but the gift of ourselves, our time, our love, our kindness. And I learned that being Santa is not a burden or an obligation. It is a privilege and a joy. It is the most fulfilling, meaningful, purposeful way to live. It connects us to something larger than ourselves. It gives our lives meaning and direction. It fills us with love and happiness. It makes us better people. It makes the world a better place. That is the family secret. That is the truth I have tried to share with you through this story. Santa Claus is real, and Santa is you. You have the power to create magic. You have the ability to spread joy and kindness. You have the opportunity to make a difference in the world. All you have to do is choose it. All you have to do is decide to be Santa. So I am asking you, one more time, to make that choice. Choose to be Santa. Choose to spread kindness wherever you go. Choose to help people who need help. Choose to be generous with your time and your resources and your love. Choose to make the world a little bit better, a little bit brighter, a little bit more magical. That is all it takes. That is all Santa has ever been. A choice. A commitment. A way of life. And when you make that choice, when you commit to being Santa, you will discover something wonderful. You will discover that you are not alone. You are part of a tradition that spans generations and touches countless lives. You are part of a family of Santas, people all over the world who have made the same choice, who share the same commitment. You are connected to something beautiful and important and eternal. You are connected to my dad, who started the tradition in our family. You are connected to me, who carried it on. You are connected to my children and grandchildren, who are carrying it forward. You are connected to everyone who has ever chosen kindness over cruelty, generosity over selfishness, love over hate. You are part of the Santa family. And that is a beautiful thing to be. So go out into the world and be Santa. Look for opportunities to help. Spread kindness wherever you go. Make someone's day a little brighter. Make someone's life a little easier. Make someone feel loved and valued and seen. That is your calling. That is your purpose. That is the magic you were born to create. And when you do, when you live this way, you will find that your life becomes richer and more meaningful. You will find that you are happier and more fulfilled. You will find that you are connected to others in deep and profound ways. You will find that you are living the kind of life that matters, the kind of life that makes a difference, the kind of life that will be remembered long after you are gone. That is the gift Dad gave me all those years ago. That is the gift I am trying to give you now. The gift of understanding what Santa really is. The gift of knowing that magic is real and that you have the power to create it. The gift of a life lived in service to others, a life of kindness and generosity and love. It is the greatest gift I have ever received, and I hope you will receive it too. So thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for letting me share the family secret with you. Thank you for being open to the message. And thank you, in advance, for choosing to be Santa. Because I know you will. I know that something in this story has touched you, has awakened something in you, has inspired you to be better and do better. I know that you will go out into the world and spread kindness and joy. I know that you will be Santa. And when you perform that first act of Santa kindness, remember this story. Remember Dad in his red suit and his twinkling eyes. Remember the little girl in the hospital and the boy at school and all the people whose lives have been touched by the Santa spirit. Remember that you are part of something bigger than yourself, part of a tradition that will never die, part of a family of Santas that spans the globe. Remember that Santa Claus is real. Santa is love. Santa is kindness. Santa is generosity. Santa is you. And as long as there are people like you in the world, people who choose to be Santa, the magic will never die. The spirit of Christmas will live on forever. And the world will be a better place because of it. Merry Christmas. May your heart be filled with love. May your life be filled with purpose. May you always remember that you are Santa. May you always choose kindness. May you always believe in the magic. Because the magic is real. The magic is you. The magic is us, together, creating a better world one act of kindness at a time. And now, as this story comes to an end, as I prepare to close my eyes and rest, I want to leave you with one final thought. The thought that has sustained me through all these years, through all the ups and downs of life. The thought that Dad shared with me that night when I was 7 years old and my world was turned upside down. Santa Claus is real. He lives in your heart. He lives in your actions. He lives in your choices. He is the best part of you, the part that wants to give and help and love. He is waiting to be awakened, waiting to be unleashed, waiting to change the world. All you have to do is say yes. All you have to do is choose to be Santa. So say yes. Say yes to kindness. Say yes to generosity. Say yes to love. Say yes to being Santa. And watch as your life transforms. Watch as the world around you becomes brighter and more beautiful. Watch as the magic unfolds. Because it will. I promise you, it will. This is the end of my story, but it is not the end of the Santa tradition. The tradition continues in you, and everyone who hears this story and chooses to embrace it. The tradition lives on in every act of kindness, every gesture of generosity, every moment of love. The tradition is eternal, as long as there are people who believe in it and live it. So go now. Go and be Santa. Go and create magic. Go and make the world better. That is your mission. That is your purpose. That is your gift to give. And when you do, know that I am with you in spirit, cheering you on, proud of you, grateful for you. Know that Dad is with you too, and all the generations of Santas who came before. We are all connected in this beautiful tradition of love. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. And may you always, always be Santa. May you always choose kindness. May you always spread joy. May you always believe in the magic. Because the magic is real. The magic is love. The magic is you.